Okay, here we are. It's Friday, hour number 2 here on Talkback. 721-1290 is our number. But we are thrilled and privileged, as always, to have with us the county attorney for Missoula, Kirsten Pabst. Hi, Kirsten.
Good morning.
And she isn't always here. She's just here on Fridays. But we're always excited when she's on with us. We are having a lot of questions pour in for you, though, Kirsten. And so I wanted to give you this first question is one from our public, actually. They want to know about the death penalty and when there's a decision to go for the death penalty or not. Because a lot of people felt like the Super 8 murder case should have resulted in a death penalty charge. And we're hoping maybe you could explain why or why not.
And the same with the Gomez case. It just seemed particularly brutal. So go ahead.
They do seem brutal. In fact, both those cases were, if the facts as they are alleged, as it'll play out in trial, they were very brutal and very violent crimes, and there's a natural, almost an emotional reaction to sort of get revenge through the legal system. And the death penalty, there's a couple of reasons why these particular cases didn't qualify, but there's extremely strict requirements in order to even file for the death penalty. And some of those requirements are either that we show ambush or there was torture involved. They're really extremely egregious cases that would qualify, and arguably neither of the two cases pending in Missoula County qualify. But there's a even better reason than that, and the United States Supreme Court basically just shot down our statutory scheme for the death penalty. So,
now, how do you mean?
Well, there was a case out of Florida that was just overturned because of their process for seeking and getting the death penalty. Montana's scheme is extremely similar to that. And so in order to, if the death penalty is even going to continue in Montana, the legislature is probably going to have to overhaul the process.
Now,
essentially, what the Supreme Court said
is
that the jury has to decide, and our statutory scheme requires that a judge decide, and that's been held unconstitutional. And I'm grossly oversimplifying it, but it just, at this point in Montana, I don't know that we're going to be able to do it until we get those laws straightened out.
When it comes to like a long history of domestic abuse, which apparently is what was going on in the Gomez case, I mean, isn't that amount to torture?
Well, I think arguably it could be, but the torture that is referred to in the death penalty statutes is pretty distinct and a pretty strict requirement.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just... Now, do you happen to know, and I know we're throwing us all this at you without giving you a chance to prepare, but do you know when was the last time that a death penalty case actually was tried and convicted and the death penalty imposed here in Montana?
Not without doing a little bit of research. It's been a while.
Yeah.
She only has to deal with this county now.
Right. So with that in mind, a lot of folks also wanted to know if Mr. Gomez was a undocumented or illegal alien, or was he a citizen of the U.S.?
That is a question that we have not ignored, and we've been looking at. Our investigation has revealed that he was born in California, which would make him a United States citizen.
Right. Okay.
Obviously, if anything changes or if our information is different, we would involve the federal authorities and, initiate those processes. But to the best of our knowledge at this point, he is a United States citizen.
All right.
We've been really busy working on these cases.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Towards the beginning of a big case like either one of these, what we do is, after the dust settles a little bit and the lead detectives feel like their cases are coming together and they've got a pretty solid plan for follow-up, then what we do is the lead prosecutors, the lead detectives meet with the leaders at the crime lab, and we sit down with all of our forensic evidence and lists of what we have, and kind of decide what's going to be tested for what, and which cases do we need, which items of evidence should we look for DNA, which items would be better looking for fingerprints and things like that, and it kind of puts the investigation sometimes in a different direction. But it's good to have those meetings. We just kind of started doing that, having these kind of big meetings at the front end, so that hopefully we'll save a lot of time and resources when we're preparing for trial.
Let me ask you this: at what point do you sit down with the families of the victim and say, okay, we've got our ducks in a row in our case now. Is there anything you'd like to add, or do you do that?
Yeah, we do that frequently. We have frequent meetings with the families of the victims, either at their homes, or they'll come here on the phone.
Now,
pretty constant contact.
I was going to say that's got to be very difficult to share in their grief and share in their sorrow and see their anger at to what happened to their loved one.
Oh, they're just at a point in their life where they've, their reality's been ripped away from them, and you get to know the victim's families so well that, you really you just really get to know them. And several of the families of murder cases that I've worked with over the last 20 years, we've stayed really close friends and stayed in touch after the case was closed, just because you get to know them on such sort of a deep emotional level that otherwise you wouldn't have ever met this person.
Now, is that true with the Day-Days as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that Jen, in particular, stays in touch with them. What a nice family.
Sure. Okay. So anything else you want to tell us? Some statistics. We kind of kept you busy here for the first few minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. We've had a pretty busy week. 11 new complaints filed this week. No surprise here, but 3 of them were meth, DUIs, a couple assaults with a weapon, a couple thefts, and then we've got 4 more to charge this morning.
Wow.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
Keeping busy.
Well, Kirsten, thanks so much for the update, and thank you for taking our questions gracefully, even though we didn't prepare you for them. But we sure appreciate you answering to the extent that you could, and we appreciate that.
Anytime. That's why I'm here. Thanks, Peter.
All right. You can take care. Have a great weekend.
I will. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That's Kirsten Pabst. There you go. So now you know why the death penalty has not been imposed in these 2 very, very high-profile cases. So.
Well, let's see. We do have a request from Tyler.
Okay.
Maybe he can call in and talk about that. It's about the issue going on between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
So I'll just let's listen to this real quick highlight. I'll get the phone.
Okay.
If you could read the name of this is their foreign minister
Okay.
of Saudi Arabia speaking with CNN's Wolf Blitzer.
Okay, it is Adel Al-Jubeir. So this is Iran versus Saudi Arabia. And again, as John said, Wolf Blitzer reports, and here is that exchange.
Have you lost confidence in the United States?
We don't have confidence in Iran. We have confidence in the United States.
What do you need? What do you want Iran to do now to restore diplomatic relations?
Very simple. Iran should cease interfering in the affairs of the countries of the region. Iran should cease to support terrorism. Iran should cease to assassinate diplomats and blow up embassies. Iran should cease to support militias whose objective is to destabilize countries in the region. Iran should cease its policy of negative propaganda in the region. Other than that, things should be fine with Iran.
Are you okay with the billions of dollars that Iran is about to get as a result of the nuclear deal?
No.
Wolf, I think most countries in the world are not okay with it. I think most countries in the world are concerned that Iran will use these funds in order to fund its nefarious activities rather than use them to develop its country and improve the living standards of its people. I hope I'm wrong.
Okay, so the story for the United States. John Kerry rushed to Riyadh to try to parlay with Saudi Arabia, who's freaking out because we switched sides in what's been, frankly, a 1,000-year-old struggle between the Shia and the Sunni, who just can't get along. And we have pivoted towards Iran recently, and it's freaking Saudi Arabia out. And people are afraid that with Iran having more easy access to a nuclear weapon possibly, and a lot more money to come in, and the ability to buy arms from Russia, that there is going to be another sort of situation where Iran and Saudi Arabia are going to have to butt heads. And so Saudi Arabia is getting worried and starting to amp things up, and everyone's afraid that maybe this whole area will go to pot, not that it already hasn't. Anyway, we got Tyler on the air. He wants to talk about it as well. What's going on, Tyler?
Hey, hi.
Hey, guys. So John Kerry yesterday was asked point blank, what do you think Iran is going to use the $150 billion in sanctions that we just gave them?
We're going to Disney World.
And he goes, well, He goes, well, I'm sure that they're going to use it, to do some creative stuff. He goes, I'm sure that some of it is going to be used for terrorism, but we're okay with that. Are you kidding me? He openly admitted on mic, on air, under question, yeah, we realize that they're going to use some of this for terrorism, and we're all right with that. That's where our government stands right now with sanctions. And Iran, they're okay with it. They're on Iranian side. It's crazy.
Here's what he said exactly. Quote, I can tell you this. Right now, we are not seeing the early delivery of funds going to that kind of endeavor at this point in time, Kerry said. Quote, I'm sure at some point some of it will, but that has never made the difference in what is happening there, end quote. What does that mean?
It means that our government, our Secretary of State, is perfectly okay with Iran blowing up our soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, and you name it, he's okay with it, and he's okay with them using the money that we're going to give them to fund terrorism.
All right.
No, the one
This is
question.
treasonous.
Well, hold on. One question I would ask you is, if you choose between Saudi Arabia and Iran, if I remember correctly, weren't the vast majority of the terrorists who crashed into the buildings, weren't they from Saudi Arabia?
Sure. Yeah.
So, like,
It's very complicated, Peter.
Is it the devil you know versus the devil you don't know?
Well, and also one of the
Or what?
reasons why Iran hasn't been able to bomb is because we've had sanctions on them.
Yeah,
It was hard for Iranians
Yeah.
to travel,
true.
terrorists or not.
Hey, Tyler.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, man. I want to get Catherine on. I think she wants to address the same issue. Hi, Catherine.
Yeah, hi. A couple of things. And, John, I just sent you a little article from PJ Media about this. The head of the Iranian armed forces, and a guy by the name of Major General Hassan Firozabadi, that's a mouthful of a name.
Zero Zabadi, huh?
Sir F.
Oh, Sir F. Zabadi.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. He's already said, yeah, we welcome war with the United States. We're looking forward to it.
Right.
And the other thing is that there are allegations out there now that the United States paid $1 billion+ in ransom for the sailors that were seized the other day.
What?
So, I don't know. That's supposedly in addition to the released funds.
What's your source on that, do you know?
I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you again.
Okay.
But, anyhow,
Right.
I think maybe did I see that at Drudge the other day? Well, anyway, I'll find it again and send it to you.
Great.
Oh, here we go.
Thanks.
U.S. payment of
Thanks for
$1.7
the
billion
call.
to Iran raises questions of ransom. It's out of the Wall Street Journal.
Wow. Well, who believes them? All right, let's get Mike on real quick before we take our break. Hi,
Not
Mike.
from an opinion column, by the way.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, the best reason for the city of Missoula not to own the water company is Flint, Michigan, because if it was a private organization, these people would be facing criminal charges. They're not. They work for the city, and they're going to sue them. You're suing yourself for crying out loud.
Wait. Oh, this is great. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Flint,
yeah.
Michigan's water is owned by the city.
Yeah.
A city would never screw its people over.
Never.
Ever.
Never,
They would
and that's-
be able to make a better profit off of it. They'd be
Right,
able
well-
to save money and reinvest it into the system.
Right. But anyway, it's just, they're almost all, they don't, if it was a private organization, they would have the sheriff knocking the door on some of these people, because what these people are done is nothing less than terrorism themselves, because the effects of feeding children lead-contaminated water for 2 years, the results of that are really going to be devastating. And these people that was involved in this, personally, I'd stand up against the wall and shoot them. I wouldn't bother with the damn judge, but they are the worst type of criminals we got. Hey, they make the terrorists look like playboys.
All
So
right,
that's
thank
my thoughts on that one.
Thanks, Mike. In case you don't know, and you kind of hear it come in one ear and out the other. Yeah, water in Flint, Michigan. Yeah, really sorry about that. Okay, I got to fix dinner. Got to go change the oil. Whatever it might be. But here's the story.
Thirsty.
Yeah. This is coming to us from CNN. I'll just read this to you. All right. It says Flint, Michigan lies about 70 miles from the shores of the largest group of freshwater bodies in the world, the Great Lakes. Yet its residents can't get clean water from their taps. Nearly 2 years ago, the state decided to save money. The state of Michigan decided to save money by switching Flint's water supply from Lake Huron, which they were paying the city of Detroit for, to the Flint River, a notorious tributary that runs through town known to locals for its filth. We thought it was a joke, said Rhonda Kelso, a longtime Flint resident. People my age and older thought they're not really going to do that. The switch was made during a financial state of emergency for the ever-struggling industrial town. It was supposed to be temporary while the new state-run supply line to Lake Huron was ready for connection. The project was estimated to take about 2 years. Soon after the switch, the water started to look, smell, and taste funny. Residents said it looked dirty. The water would come in brown, and my daughter was like, "Mom, why is the water brown?" Kelso thought it was sewage, but it was actually iron. The Flint River is highly corrosive, 19 times more so than the supply from Lake Huron, according to researchers from Virginia Tech. According to a class action lawsuit, the State Department of, so in other words, there's a class action lawsuit by the people of Flint
against the State Department
against
of Environmental Quality.
the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. So the city against the state that wasn't treating the Flint River water with an anti-corrosive agent in violation of federal law. Therefore, the water was eroding the iron water mains, turning the water brown. But what residents couldn't see was far worse. About half of the service lines to homes in Flint are made of lead. And because the water wasn't properly treated, lead began leaching into the water supply in addition to the iron. Holy smoke. This had been the status quo for nearly 2 years until September. City and state officials told worried residents that everything was fine. Former Flint Mayor Dane Walling even drank it on local TV to make the point. But in August, a group of skeptical researchers from Virginia Tech came up and did in-home testing and found elevated levels of lead in the drinking water and made those findings public. State officials insisted their own research was more accurate. "You're paying for poison. I'm paying for water that's a toxic waste," Kelso said. She and her daughter and 4 other families are now part of a class action lawsuit that alleges not only lead poisoning, but several medical conditions resulting from contaminated water after the switch. CNN sought responses from all the defendants, and many did not respond. Later, it became publicly known that federal law had not been followed. So you get the feds involved. A 2011 study on the Flint River, so this is 5 years ago, found it would have to be treated with an anti-corrosive agent for it to be considered as safe for drinking water. Adding that agent would have cost about $100 a day. And experts say 90% of the problems with Flint's water would have been avoided. However, Flint residents say they were kept in the dark for 18 months until a local doctor took things into her own hands.
Interesting. So the governor of the state is a Republican, has been since 2011.
Right.
Dane Walling is a Democrat, the guy that drank the apparently poisonous water live on screen. He was bested in a political race by another Democrat. From what I could tell, the city has been run by Democrats for 5 or 6 different terms. I don't think this is one that bridges party. I think it's one that you got to go to the environmental quality control. Why weren't tests being done? Why didn't they know? Now
well, let's put it this way. How many of you? Okay, I'm talking to our listeners right now. Good old, not in Flint, Michigan, but in good old Missoula, Montana. Okay, if you're hooked, let's say you're hooked up to mountain water, all right, and everything's been hunky dory for a long time, and then all of a sudden you turn on the tap, it's brown. It's not only brown; it stinks. It smells funny. And it
I have
tastes
done this
bad.
when I've traveled down to Oklahoma before, and you turn on the water. If you've lived in Montana, and it just tastes gross. I hate the water.
Yeah.
And it tastes tepid and it smells funny. So almost everywhere else I go, I just assume the water's worse than our water.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they're probably used to it.
I want to ask you, what would you do? I mean, would you probably first thing I would do? I've got mountain water on my speed dial at home. You know, I would say, "Hey, could you send somebody out and test my water? Got some problems here." And how many people live in Flint? Like 100,000 or so?
Sure.
There's a lot of people there. And I'm sure, and since this water supply serves the entire city of Flint, For 2 years.
Wow.
They have been ingesting this water. They've been cooking with it, bathing with it, washing with it.
Crazy. All right.
John, what are you giggling about over there?
One of my friends texted me. He says, "No talking crap about eco compost."
Or words to that effect. Let's get Doug on the line. Hey, Doug, thank you for holding, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, I've lived in Missoula for a long time, and about 35 years ago, I had a young couple move in with me, and they then had a newborn, so they decided to move out to a house on Cleveland Street here in Missoula. And about a year later, they contacted me to tell me what had happened to them with their newborn. The newborn was suffering from lead poisoning.
Wow.
And they would get up in the morning and pour some water and make the baby's food and with the water just fresh out of the tap.
Sure.
And that water had been sitting in the pipe that runs from the street into the house. And they were told that that was a lead pipe. Well, they were told that from then on, although it was too late, that they should have run the water for a few minutes to be sure that all the water that was in the lead pipe had been run through and run down the drain.
Wow.
So that can happen right here in Missoula, Montana, and it has. And as I
Interesting.
remember, it was the Graham family.
Oh, okay. Well, Doug, thanks for the call. We appreciate that.
You bet. Everyone has to be alert, and you need to maybe run a little check in the older parts of town and just see if they could tell if you have a lead water main running into your house.
That would
We
be-
know from the water trial that
Yeah.
there are still lead water mains
Right,
here in town.
right, exactly.
Right.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that. All right, 9:35. So, all right, yeah, should we
Yeah,
move
okay,
on?
so
from-
let me talk about this eco compost.
Now, you've done a lot of research into this.
I called no less than 4 or 5 different people.
You've been hip deep in
I got my waders on, Peter.
so go ahead. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist.
I've tried to talk to city council. I've tried to talk with the public. So most of this seems to be driven by the Public Works Department.
Right.
I've talked to Eco Compost itself, including I basically got a statement from the owner, but I was able to talk to some of the management over there. And I was able to talk with the engineering firm that was hired. The city of Missoula is planning on paying them $85,000 next week, or up to $85,000 to come down and investigate whether or not the city can, quote, assume, end quote, the operation at Eco Compost. Assume.
Take over?
It makes out of you and me, right? I don't know. Every other place is calling it a takeover. Whether that means an eminent domain of Eco Compost or what, I don't know.
Or now here's a question. I just throw it out there, and I really don't know the answer to this. I'm just throwing it out there. If there is an environmental problem out there, because the stink out there is really bad.
That's
okay?
something City Council has brought up is the stench.
Okay. If it's really bad, does the city have the authority to go to that business and say, we are going to take you over because we can do a better job of ameliorating that odor than you can?
That's what they're looking into. One of the things that the engineering firm is hired to look at is whether or not the smell can be mitigated better. And they're supposed to look at different places that do this mitigation.
Okay.
One of the things I thought was interesting, it's the city of Missoula. Why not hire a Missoula engineering firm? Whatever.
I don't know.
We got lawyers from Washington, engineering firms from Helena. I mean, can't we keep some of the money in town?
Well, let me ask you this. If this particular privately owned business, which happens to be on city-owned land, okay.
So that land was negotiated. It was a negotiated sale to the city like less than 4 years ago, I believe.
Yeah. Well,
It's
anyway.
fairly recent.
If this is a privately owned business, shouldn't they be responsible for hiring the engineering firm and getting rid of the odor?
Right. Well, it's not about just the odor.
Okay.
Okay, so if you read the document for this, this engineering firm's not only supposed to just look at smell. That's actually one of the low things on the list.
Really?
They're supposed to look at whether or not it would be profitable for Missoula to operate its own deal. They're supposed to look at what the marketplace is for fertilizer, how much fertilizers produce, all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so I'm just wondering. We're just in the beginning stages here, and again, it's a little difficult for officials to weigh in on this because I guess not that much is known about it at this point, and people don't want to,
And I have a
jump the
lot
gun.
of colorful things to say from the people that I've talked to, but I can't because no one will go on the record.
Right.
I do have a statement. One thing that they would tell me, Eco Compost. I'll tell you this. I won't tell you who told me, but this came out of the blue for them. They did not expect the city to be invested. They've been working with the city apparently since the 70s.
We do have a comment here from Phil Oakenshield, though, right?
And every time I hear his name, I'm like transported to the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no kidding.
I said, "Are you from Underhill?" I couldn't help myself.
Are you a dwarf? What? A dwarf king or something? That's Thorin Oakenshield. That's the guy's name.
That's right.
Anyway, so let's hear what he had to say, because according to this comment, which actually comes from the owner of the business.
Right.
Okay?
This is a comment he took from the owner,
right,
and then delivered.
And so, I'll let you listen for yourself. Here we go.
In October 2015, Eco Compost sent the city a list of questions. To date, the city has not responded to the questions. Our answers we are getting is through the news media. Until the time we get those answered to our questions, we will be refraining from comments.
See, this is a trouble. I wonder if one of the questions on the list is, are you going to give yourself a raise this time? Because that one doesn't seem to want to get an answer. I don't know. We got a call on the line.
All right, Art, you're on Talkback. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my question is, didn't the city accuse the rendering plant for being the cause of that bad smell out there originally?
Well, I know that there is a rendering plant across the street from Reserve Street, and then Eco Compost is across Reserve and down the road, probably about a mile away. So I don't know. I think it's at some point the rendering plant may have been responsible for some of the odor, but the odor that's been out there recently has been, whew.
Who dealt it?
Yeah.
That should be the title on the front page.
Oh my gosh.
I understand that, but is the city saying that is Eco Compost that is causing that odor?
Well, I think it may be kind of a combination of the things that are going on in that area that may be contributing to the odor. I don't know. I to be honest with you, I am just as I'm questioning this just like everybody else is.
It's a combination. You can't just look at one thing. You got to number two everything. There's multiple routes to this problem.
Wow.
Well, there's a lot of number two out there, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're in trouble.
Oh, good Lord. Don't encourage him, Art. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for the call. You're trying to wipe out the show. Everybody wants to talk.
So turkey.
Let's get Harlan on the line. Good morning, Harlan. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, good morning, gentlemen. I apologize. I just tuned in, so I haven't heard the whole story, but I was really glad to hear that you were talking about it. And,
okay.
Monday night, I'm sure this is going to be on the top of the list.
Well, you guys will be hip deep in compost up there.
It's getting thick.
So, are you going to shoot straight for the middle of the bowl here and tell us what your opinion is about this? Because something stinks about this whole situation.
Well, yeah. Well, that City Hall smelled like donkey for a while, so I'm kind of used to it. But in all seriousness, if people don't come to the city council meeting, then we will not be able to have an intelligent conversation about this. I mean, when I opened the paper for the first time and saw we were going to spend $85,000 just to study if we wanted to take this over, I thought it was a misprint. But, maybe this is what they mean by democratic socialism. We're just going to keep taking over every company there is.
So this is something that came out of a subcommittee. So it'll go up for the general, for the rest of you to talk about. Do you have any questions you plan on bringing up?
Yeah, I've asked to see the lease, first of all, which I haven't gotten back yet because I want to see exactly the way it was structured. I've gone back and looked at when we purchased the land, and if you look at the intent in the purchase, it was for the city to have the option to take it over if ECO ever decided to sell or close down. So there's definitely some questions here that have got my interest. I have a call into ECO. I wanted to get their opinion directly, and I haven't heard back from them.
Well, you probably won't. They say they're not
Yeah.
going to talk to anybody, but I did. I did get to hear from ECO. And the stuff I heard was they were surprised by the move from the city. That they also seem to be surprised that the city thinks that it can make money off of the ordeal. Now, one of the questions I asked was if Eco Compost could give me a history of the park department's use of fertilizer, because it makes sense. Like if you could make money off of it and not have to charge and pay, and maybe it is a more efficient way for the city to deal with its parks department to make its own fertilizer. They certainly make enough of the other stuff. So the question though came back with a really quick answer. So in the past 3 years, the city has bought like 150 yards on average per year. But Eco Compost makes about 75,000 yards of finished product per year. So it's a very, very, very small portion of the business they do. In fact, the city could probably just back out completely, and it probably wouldn't tank Eco Compost at all.
Right, and Eco Compost, I think the lease is $45,000 a year to the city, so I'm sure it's a pretty big wash. You got to the heart of the problem that I see is if this is a revenue grab, that's not what cities are supposed to be doing. That is not the if we're trying to attract businesses and good-paying jobs to Missoula, we don't need a reputation for a city that's come here with an innovative idea, and as soon as we can figure a way to take it from you, we will. I mean, that is not business-friendly Democrats.
I want you to listen to this clip. This is Jordan Hess, your fellow city council person. This is what he said to me. If you could play...
With one or two? All right, well, there's two. There's a one and a two.
Play number two.
All right, you might seriously want number two.
Number two.
Okay, stand by. Here we go. Do that so that he can hear it. All right, here we go. This is number two with Jordan. I'm not kidding. It's what it says. Eco 2. Here we go.
The city owns the land that Eco Compost is located on, and it's really the council's policy objective to make sure that we have a good understanding of the best long-term strategy for keeping solid waste from the wastewater treatment plant out of our landfill.
So apparently, it's not just Eco Compost. I guess the city is also possibly interested in the landfill as well.
Well, the wastewater treatment plant is right near where Eco Compost is. Isn't that right?
We dump all the solid waste onto Eco Compost, and then they process it for part of their fertilizer. So some of the fertilizers that the city uses is poop, people poop. So but the question I have for that is,
let's keep it in house.
It's people.
People poop. Yeah.
Sorry.
But why has Eco Compost done something? Are they faulting us? Are they price gouging us? I mean, I have nobody's brought up anything ever that there was this reason to even consider it. So why now?
Let me ask you this, Harlan. Is this going to be discussed this Monday? And B, will you be inviting the owners and management of Eco Compost to speak to the council?
Well, if they call me back, I'll invite them. I left them a message after hours last night because I was reading the paper and was like, wow, I'd really love to know what their opinion is. I unfortunately haven't had a chance. If it went through to the consent agenda, I will ask to have it go to committee so that it will have a chance for people to talk about. But if nobody shows up to talk about it, then there's not much I can do. But that's why I called in. I'm hoping people come. They actually bring up so we can debate it and flush out some of these issues.
So I guess the owner is in Hawaii, because when I tried to get that statement, it took them a while because they had to get a hold of him in Hawaii. Why he's there for vacation or to get away from the smell, I have no idea. But he's not around at the moment, so it's going to probably be a hard case to get him to show up on Monday.
Who would want to be in Hawaii in January when you could be in Missoula? Yeah. Anyway. All right, Harlan.
Well, hey, you guys have a good day. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Thanks a lot. All right. Jay, first of all, thank you for holding, sir. You're on Talkback. Go ahead.
Sure. I lived on Mullen Road between Broadway and John R. Daly meets from 1975 to about 2002, and I got to smell the odor from there quite often.
From where?
Well, if you go directly across from Bone and Joint, there's what used to be my residence. It's now attorney's offices.
Uh-huh.
At any rate, I had to put up with that smell for some time. Want to let you know the rendering plant has long since gone.
Right, yeah.
And that really never was the odor problem. In fact, John R. Daly's, the biggest complaint I have with them was that they used to make me hungry for bacon with the odor they put out. But it seems that I find it rather interesting that they located a sewage treatment plant on a bend in the river in an area that could be flooded, and everything from Missoula could end up in the Columbia River, and they could all get our sewage downstream.
Interesting.
It is in the floodplain, right? It is in the 100-year floodplain.
Yes, and I always wondered why they kept adding more to it and making it a larger operation.
Well, I know they were using some of that water. They made a big deal about having this like little poplar forest where they were growing poplar trees and harvesting them and that sort of thing.
They're actually poopler trees.
Well, one of the excuses that I used to get from the operator of the sewage treatment plant was that, and the odor generally occurred in the summer months, was because they were restricted with what they could put in the river because of the phosphates and nitrates levels.
Right.
And they had to hold more of it, and that was what the odor was. But then the city supposedly got all this money to pump into the sewage treatment plant and take care of all this. I was wondering if there isn't somebody out there that's in that same business of composting that would know of a method of or a process by which you could eliminate the odor. I'm suspect of whether the odor is really from the composting process, or is it still the city's sewage treatment plant just having issues with their process?
From my discussions with the folks who work at the sewage treatment plant, they have quite literally a wall full of awards, like from the EPA and all this stuff of how clean and how well they do their job, and it's considered one of the best in the state and that sort of thing. So,
well, I would still appreciate if there was somebody out there that's in the business of making compost somewhere that could say that, there is a way to do this. It could be done odor free.
Okay.
The other thing is with regard to Hawaii. I know why that gentleman's in Hawaii. His biggest customers are the golf courses in Hawaii.
Oh.
They ship the eco material, and I don't know if it just comes from Missoula, but Eco is a much bigger company. They're just not in Missoula.
Right, exactly.
But I do know that they're one of their biggest customers of the golf courses in Hawaii.
Cool. All right, well, thanks for the call.
You bet.
I can imagine writing that baby off.
I wonder if the city's going to invest in one of those giant blue urine cakes that you see in the bottom of the toilet bowl. They can just put it at the end of the sewage.
All right. Let's move along. Emmett, good morning. You're on Talkback. Hi.
Oh, thanks for taking my call. I'd kind of like to change gears a bit since it's open phones. I was thinking about what John said. We were discussing our good friend, not Ron Paul, Donald Trump, the Trumpster. Anyway, well, about the pro-life thing, if I remember, Mitt Romney was pro-choice before he became pro-life. He switched his positions. He kind of wanted Romney care. And even when I was a teenager and a young adult, I was sitting on the fence of abortion. I didn't know whether I was pro-life or pro-choice.
Well, this isn't when he's a young adult. Here, let's play the clip. I got it in the queue here. This is him in 1999. This is him when he's not running for office.
Hold on.
All right.
The difference, I think, with Romney is he changed it while he was running in office, while he was in office.
Okay, this is 46 seconds. Here we go.
Partial birth abortion, the eliminating of abortion in the third trimester. Big issue in Washington. Would President Trump ban partial birth abortion?
Well, look, I'm very pro-choice. I hate the concept of abortion. I hate it. I hate everything it stands for. I cringe when I listen to people debating the subject. But I just believe in choice. And again, it may be a little bit of a New York background because there is some different attitude in different parts of the country. And, you know, I was raised in New York and grew up and work and everything else in New York City. But I am strongly for choice, and yet I hate the concept of abortion.
But you would not ban it?
No.
Or ban partial birth abortion?
No, I am pro-choice in every respect.
Now, this is Donald before he's running for office.
Okay.
Now, suddenly, he's never cast a vote for anything, but now we're supposed to believe that, whoops, changed my mind completely because I'm running.
That is interesting. I mean, maybe he changed his mind. We can all evolve. I don't know. We'd have to ask him. And there is, like on the website, on the Internet, candidates on the issues. You can Google up Donald Trump or Ted Cruz or anything on the issues.
Well, we know what he says now. Now he says he's pro-life. Now he says he's not a Democrat. Now he says he doesn't support Hillary. But that's not what he said 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, he was only giving money because he was making, financial,
I can't believe that people buy this.
He's giving money for access. Hey, we got to get one more caller in, okay?
All right.
Thanks, Emmett. Appreciate the call. Candy, we have 1 minute. Quickly, go.
Okay, I'm going to back Jay all the way, and I'm going to go a step further and say you need to look at the sewage treatment plant because fraud has been going on there since I ran for mayor, and it was proved that there was fraud, and there's a person available that can give you all the tapes, all the information you want on that sewage treatment plant. And if they have awards, that's because they scam those awards. Because I know for sure that certain things were done
What
out
kind of
there.
fraud do you think that, or do you have
We
proof
have
that they did?
15 seconds, quickly.
Well, I can't go into it in 15 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Tell you what,
there was,
maybe on Monday.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're completely out of time. I'm sorry. So what's coming up on Monday?
We'll have open phones.
Yeah, okay. Wait. You might just pick this up again. You guys have a great day, and please drive safely out there. We will talk to you Monday at 6